Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Speak Plainly podcast, where we speak plainly about things that matter. I am your host, Owl Medicine, and the first thing that I want to bring up today is congratulations to me, because my book, Rethinking Broken, is finally available on Amazon. Although I was having a hard time getting it by just typing in Rethinking Broken, you can type in Rethinking Broken Owl or Rethinking Broken Book, or you can just type in Owl Medicine and that brings it up as well. But if you type in just the title, you might not find it. Anyway, I'm super duper excited that it's finally out and available for the world. And it ties into today's podcast topic because what I wanted to talk about is self-worth. I want to talk about self-worth. I know last week I talked about doing some ChatGPT exploration stuff and looking at things like self-worth or loneliness like last week. And this is kind of in the same vein, but I'm going to leave ChatGPT out of this for a little bit because this is really personal for me. And I want to walk you through my experience with having absolute garbage self-esteem and no self-worth whatsoever, and how I have become a person now with lots of self-esteem and a good chunk of self-worth, which, by the way, when I looked up the definitions for this podcast, they are actually synonyms. They're synonym roles. No, they're synonyms. So what we're going to do is look at self-worth, self-esteem, whatever you want to call it, where it comes from. And I'm going to use a word repeatedly that is also considered a synonym that I prefer, called self-respect, because to me that really gets to the heart of it, because I had none. I had no self-respect. And I don't think any broken person really does. If we did, we wouldn't believe that we were broken. So, without further ado, I'm going to get started with what is self-esteem? How do we get self-esteem? Where does it come from? When you dive into the psychology of this, they break everything down into systems, right? That's what science does, and any ology is the science of the thing. So in our Western world, we break it down into its individual pieces. And if we can, we try to make it simple by turning it into a acronym or an abbreviation or something. In this case, what brings about self-esteem, at least as far as development, is broken down into the 5 C's. And I found this article in a behavioral sciences journal, and the article is titled "The Importance of the 5 C's of Positive Youth Development to Depressive Symptoms. This is the important part. A cross-sectional study with university students from Peru and Spain." So this is at least not just looking at Americans, which I like. And it does look at 2 different cultures. And I'm not going to go super deep into it by any means, but I will use this to look at what these 5 C's are. The 5 C's are competence, confidence, character, connection, and caring. Okay, again, the 5 C's are competence, there will not be a quiz, confidence, character, connection, and caring. And it goes on to kind of give definitions for these. So the way that they broke down confidence is confidence reflects a positive sense of self-worth, mastery, future, positive identity, and self-efficacy. That's confidence. I like the self-efficacy part. The competence bit is a view of one's capabilities with respect to a given domain or vocation, that you can actually competently accomplish a task in a domain. Then there is character. Character indicates respect for rules, morality, and integrity. Caring is about the ability to feel sympathy and empathy towards others. And finally, connection concerns bonding with others and forming meaningful relationships with family, peers, and communities. The this study proposes that when these 5 C's are present in a young person, and with a 6th C, contribution, emerges when the young person can constructively contribute to self, family, community, and even civil society or society at large. So, self-respect is broken down into basically 5 categories, and how much self-respect you have is more or less predicated on how you feel about yourself in relation to one of these 5 C's. And unfortunately for a lot of us, we all struggle with self-worth. We struggle with believing that I'm enough, or often we'll struggle with believing that I'm too much. And it's really hard, because the phrase is, a person can never rise above their opinion of themselves. And it's super true. If we have no self-worth, we will never be worth much, because we can never rise above our opinions of ourselves. And if there's one thing I learned through writing Rethinking Broken, it was about how it first, we must be known in order to know ourselves. So that means our identity is created by other people's impressions of us, at least when we're young. And depending on what state they were in, if they were super stressed or whatever, then we might not have gotten the most positive feedback about who we are, having nothing to do with us. Still, it instills a sense of a lack of self-worth, that we're not worth much because people weren't able to drop what they were doing to be there for us, or were too stressed to recognize what we were feeling at a given moment in time. We all know no self-worth sucks. That's a fact. But what I'm interested in is, how do we get self-worth? And this is the part that people might have an issue with, and I'll save it a little bit longer. Because the way to get self-worth, from my experience, is not really that fun. It's almost like, at least from my experience with dealing with it, it's almost as if we expect or wish that our self-worth will just magically appear. That one day, if we live long enough and we are nice enough, that we will just feel good about ourselves. That if we're just nice long enough, we'll eventually develop some self-worth. And I find that not to be true. I find that being nice does not help my self-worth. I find that being kind does, and that's a whole thing for me. The difference between being nice and being kind is basically the difference between the West Coast and the East Coast. On the East Coast, they are kind and not nice. And on the West Coast, they're nice and not kind. Meaning the East Coast, if you wind up with a flat tire, somebody's going to curse and you need it changed. Somebody's probably going to pull over and help you do it and call you a dumbass the whole time for not knowing how to change your own tire, but they'll help you. That's kindness without being nice. And the West Coast, people will drive by, slow down, and be like, "Oh, love and light, brother bear, sorry," and they'll keep driving. That's niceness without kindness. And I'm much more of a kind type of person. I don't think it does any good for anybody to just be nice. I think that is what creates weak, pathetic little people in this world that make the world harder for everybody else. Because everybody's just been nice to them, so they don't have any actual understanding of reality. Because at the end of the day, life is hard. We were born into a world that is physical, and we compete for resources. Like, I never want to forget that the natural state of man is naked in the jungle. You know, I never want to forget that, because with our modern world, it's easy to do. It's really easy to do. And with how easy our modern world is, it's that much easier to have no self-worth, because only in this modern world can we get by without doing much of anything. And what I mean by that is, yes, people are working hard, they're working long hours for little pay and all of that's hard. But is it? I mean, does it have to be? Because it is hard and it does suck, and those long hours suck. But compared to like trying to gather all of our food, the gathering part isn't that hard, but then you're eating really basic ass stuff and you're not getting to have tiramisu and incredible coffee or lattes with oat milk from California and beans from Uruguay. There's so much to our modern world that we get to enjoy these incredible things with very little effort on our part. And I think that contributes to our generalized lack of self-worth. Like I said, I do believe that it starts in childhood, and it starts during those developmental years when we're developing our sense of identity. But really, our self-esteem, that is what determines what we believe we deserve. The amount of mistreatment that we will allow in our lives is all based on the self-esteem that we have or don't have. So when our esteem is just tanked, we're living pretty miserable lives. So a few things that I've done throughout my life to make my self-esteem better, including this morning. I have come to find, I made a post a few years ago that said, self-care is hard. Good, like real self-care is hard. I don't mean like going out and having like a glass of champagne or 10 with friends, or I mean real self-care, or just taking a bath when you're stressed. I mean the real self-care, the stuff that actually carries us through each day, our routines. Self-care looks a lot like self-discipline. And I'll just cut straight to the chase now. The reason that I finally have self-respect, and I think it's the only way to gain self-respect, which is to me the same thing as self-esteem. The only way that I have gotten self-respect for myself was to do hard things that I believed were worthy of respect. That's it. It's that simple. Do hard things that you believe are worthy of respect, or just do things that you believe are worthy of respect. They don't need to be hard. For me, they're hard. That's what it is. Things that are worthy of respect to me are difficult things. And as I've done more and more difficult things and stuck through it after I'd wanted to quit, each time I wanted to quit and didn't, it added just another little dime in my self-esteem bank. And now that I've gone through all the processes and I've at least got the paperback out on Amazon, I'm feeling really good. Because I used to say the only thing that stops me from being a complete narcissist is crippling self-doubt. And if that's not quintessential bipolar and borderline personality shit, I don't know what is. But now I still have moments of like, huzzah, and I want to say grandiosity, but I don't think it's even that serious. And I have moments of like, ugh, of like the low self-esteem, but it doesn't take over me like it used to. And I really fully believe that the reason it doesn't take over is because time after time after time through this process of putting out these podcasts and writing blogs and writing 2 books and doing all of the market strategy research and everything I did well. I did this book right. And I'm so proud of that because honestly, it's the first thing I've ever done right in my life. Like done the right way. Everything I've done has been, it's been illegal or half illegal or black market or somewhat shady, under the table. Like almost everything I've done in my life has been somewhat sus. And for the first time, I did something the right way. And that doesn't mean that I did it the traditional way, right? That doesn't mean because I didn't go find a publisher and an agent and all of that. I started my own publishing company. I became my own agent. I did my own marketing research. I did my own keywords and category research. I bought into the software programs myself that crawl Amazon's data. I wrote the book myself. I had one professional editor that I trust because I got one who has written or who has edited many very successful bestsellers for friends. And I finally did it right. And I wanted to quit, and I wanted to quit, and I wanted to quit, and I wanted to quit. And I did. I'd quit for a couple hours or a day or a week or even a couple of weeks, to be completely fair. And I mean, there was a chunk of time where I didn't touch the book for like 2.5 months because I was so overwhelmed. And I kept at it. And only by keeping at it through the hard thing is what makes it all worth it. That's what adds to self-worth. So now when I see self-worth and I look at these 5 C's, when you choose to do the hard thing and keep at it, the reason it works is because it proves your competence. It proves that it has proved that I am competent. I'm a competent writer. I'm a competent editor and proofreader. I am a competent market research strategist. I'm competent in these things. And the reason I am competent in these things is because I did them, and when I wanted to give up, I didn't, and I continued anyway. That leads to character. For me, that goes straight into character, because that is the respect for my own integrity and my own morality in saying, I know that this book needs to get out. I know that it has to go to people. It's done what it was meant to do for me. I got so much out of writing this book, but now it's time for other people. And in order to do that well, I have to really do my job as a marketing person and do the research, stick to it, and get it done. And when I did, even after I wanted to quit, that developed further my sense of character, because it developed further my own sense of integrity and my own sense of morality and what we call in the Midwest your stick-to-itiveness, your ability to stick to it through hard things. And that, it feels so good, because that then leads to confidence. That leads to my ability to have a positive sense of self and mastery. And the future isn't as daunting because I know that hard things are going to come. That's why the future is daunting. And I know that I can stick to it and I can get through it. That confidence comes because I stuck through the hard things. I developed a competence in an area that was hard, and I didn't give up. And that developed character in me. And that character has developed confidence. And that then leads into a beautiful sense of connection that I have with all of the people around me, because they see me working hard. They see me putting out good work and sticking to it and having to say no to things that I want to do because I've got things that I feel I need to do or I have to do because it is in line with my value system. It's in line with my morality and integrity, going back to character. So all of that, doing these hard things, led to that last C, the connection. And that connection pulls me into my community. It pulled me into this community of wonderful musicians and artists and lovers and beautiful, empathetic people who support me and love me and care about me. And they see what I'm doing. And because I have this community now, I can't help but move into that 6th C that they were talking about, which is contribution. Again, right back to doing a hard thing and sticking to it. my hard thing that I've been doing and sticking to is my contribution. And maybe your contribution isn't writing a book, or maybe your contribution isn't as direct as like that. I mean, not that it's really that direct. It could be a social worker or something that I feel is more direct, but it's not really my skill set. Not really where I want to be spending my time. That's not in line with my own morality and integrity, because I know I care too much, and I know I would get burned out. And I've seen myself burned out. I saw myself burned out in the military, and I saw how much of a jaded asshole that I was. And that's not going to help nobody. So it helps me to contribute in the way that I contribute. So there is no wrong way to contribute. If you start by picking one hard thing and sticking to it, something that makes you better each time, something that you believe is worth it, because I mean, so much of life, I really believe, is just about picking your hard. Choose your hard. Life is hard. The basic state of a human is naked and afraid in the jungle. Life is hard. So if life's going to be hard no matter what you do, then pick something that you can do, that you know when it gets really, really hard, you believe in it enough that you can stick to it. Pick something that you know if you were to fail, you would do it anyway. I know that sounds backwards and crazy, but I mean that. And I mean exactly the way that it sounds. It might take some time for you to chew on that. But if you are trying to develop self-worth and self-esteem, then what you need to do really is find something that is hard, that you believe is worth it, that you believe even if you failed at it miserably, that you would be glad that you tried, that you would be glad that you did it. And I know that nothing is coming to mind for a lot of people right now, and that's perfectly okay. It takes time to figure out what that is. It takes a lot of time. The first time I was ever introduced to something like this, there was an artist, a sculptor who I was introduced to in high school, who used chunks of wood and would stack chunks of wood in weird ways to do all kinds of cuts, and like it was really beautiful. But the work that she did were massive, massive, massive pieces. And she said she got inspiration all of the time, but only when she was obsessed with a piece would she allow herself to pursue it. Only when she was absolutely obsessed would she pursue it, because she knew that she'd get halfway through and she would stop. And she just wouldn't finish it. And what's the good in that? At least from her perspective. And I'm saying the same thing, because every time I start something and don't finish it, okay, yeah, that could have been fun, but my self-worth would increase if I could finish it. Now, once you have some self-worth, you can start stuff and not finish it, and that's fine. But if you are struggling with self-worth, then really say no. Just say no to a lot of stuff. When people ask you, hey, do you want to do this? Hey, do you want to do that? And when you ask yourself, do I want to do this? You have to say no to a lot of things, because you're going to have to sit in that boredom for a long time and being like, what is it? What do I actually believe in that I want to do that's hard enough? If I were to fail, I would do it anyway. It's such a completely different mindset than what we are used to in the Western world. But I promise you, if you pursue your hard with that mindset, you will develop self-worth. You will develop self-respect. But in order to develop self-respect, you need to do things that you believe are worthy of respect. And if you continue to not finish or accomplish things that you believe are worthy of respect, you will never, ever have any. Other people may be able to have their self-respect without doing much of anything. In fact, this brings me to this morning's conversation. The guy that I had been seeing, I was with for years and years. We split up, but we're still really close, and we still have a close relationship. And the book came out, and I was so excited. I went over to his house and changed into sweatpants, and we were was all ready to I was just so happy. And he's a stoner. He's a hella stoner. He smokes from the moment that he wakes up to the moment that he goes to sleep, unless he's working. And then as soon as he's off work, he smokes again. And because of that, he doesn't have much excitement or impetus or whatever. And when I came in all excited, because this is the pinnacle moment of 4 years of work of me calling in every single person that I've ever been in my life and making sure I don't throw out the baby with the bathwater, making sure that I'm thankful for the good things my parents did as much as the bad things that they did, make sure that I am doing absolutely everything I can to be as whole and complete of a person as I can be, and to show that to the world. And he gave no fucks. None. He did not listen. He did not care. It was another day. It was just another day for him. And that hurt so much. But in testament to my new sense of self-respect, you know what I did? I can tell you what I didn't do. Here's the sign that you don't have enough self-respect. When I felt disrespected and unappreciated and inconsequential, I didn't say anything. When I realized what was going on inside his head and that this was just another day and he had no idea how important this was to me, which, can we just pause for a moment and say, what the fuck, bro? How the fuck do you not know how important this is? Fucking seriously? Putting that aside, he did. Had no idea how important it was to me when it was blatantly obvious to every single other person in my life. But rather than do the lack of self-worth thing, which was to stay and get all upset and try to convince him why I deserve to be considered and celebrated and hey, let's go do something cool for you. This is a big day for you. This is bigger than your birthday, which was just a couple of days ago. That's part of why this hurts so much, is I had an amazing birthday. I had the first birthday. I turned 36 on the 7th. And I had the first real birthday party that I've had since I was 14, and only one friend came, Lisa Allen. I made my own cake. I decorated my own cake. I served it to my family. And then I went into my room with Lisa, and it was just the two of us, and we hung out, and I wasn't even allowed to have the door closed to hang out alone with my friend because she was a girl. Which is hilarious because I'm gay as fuck. Anyway, I had this incredible birthday, and then I had this awesome experience with Bread and Gravy, my favorite band on the peninsula. They are good friends of mine, and they invited me to be the featured artist at a benefit concert that they were putting on, which was sold out, and it was a benefit concert to raise money for a mobile traveling trauma vet to do low income and fixed income care for people's pets out on the peninsula, which is incredible. And I've talked about my experience with Key and her cancer and all of that. I think it was marvelous. We had a great show. People loved my set. And then I got to sing bass. And then I went back to singing lead. And then I'm back to bass. And then I sang tenor. And then I went back to bass. And it was marvelous. I had a fantastic time. And then the next day, I went over to my friend's who has got a farm, and it's that time of year. It's harvest. It's meat harvest. So we were going over to go harvest their geese, but it was sleeting that morning, so we wound up just processing lamb. So I started the day off with 3 whole lamb, just skinned and gutted, and chopping everything up and cutting it into its individual pieces and vacuum sealing it and putting it in, and then made incredible food at the end of the day with all of that. Maybe that's weird for other people, but amazing. That kind of thing. It feels so good. It feels so real. It feels so right, because if I'm going to eat meat, I need to be okay with the whole thing from beginning to end. That's how I feel. As a redneck and an ex-vegan, I'm yeah, if you're going to eat meat, you gotta get it from the beginning to the end. You gotta be okay with it all. And so I felt so honored to be able to like help process these lamb that I had seen, that I'd helped feed, you know? I had this amazing 3 days, and then the book came out. That was the fourth, and it was amazing. And then I go to Michael's, and he does not care. It doesn't even register as important to him because he's a stoner, and that's what he does. That's the way he lives his life. And rather than try to convince him of my worth, I said nothing. I put my regular clothes back on and said, I'm going to leave. And he goes, well, why'd you just stop by? And I was like, well, could have something to do with the fact that my book just came out. I've spent 4 years writing it. It is the pinnacle of my life's work. And every single person that I've talked to on the peninsula for days has been so excited. And they're all so proud of me. And the one person that I care the most about, that I spend the most time with, doesn't give a fuck. Now, to be fair, I know that Michael cares, but Michael's life is such that he's had everything given to him. He's never had to work as hard as I have for this book, and I'm not trying to shit talk on him right now. I'm saying that I understand he has no point of reference to understand how hard this was for me. And I get that. I have to get that, and I have to understand that, and I do. So rather than stay and convince him, I just went, I'm going to leave. I'm going to go be around people who have respect for me and the work that I do. And I drove to the neighboring town, and I went to Salty Girls here in Sequim and had a great lunch. Just like, it was marvelous. I got to chat with the girls. They're good friends of mine. And I met a new friend who is a life coach and actually just came to Sequim to write her book from Costa Rica, which is hilarious because I went to Costa Rica to start writing mine from here. So it was a really cool, like, wonderful connection that I wouldn't have had if Michael hadn't been so shitty, frankly. And it was just a lack of awareness. It was just a lack of awareness. But you know what? That lack of awareness is the exact same thing that injured me and made me feel neglected as a child by my mother. I'm very good at living on crumbs. And this is the last bit I'll get into with this self-worth thing. This is this morning was an actual culmination of my self-worth because I straight up said, I'm done. I will not, we've been broken up, but I straight up said, I will no longer be in your life, period, unless you change dramatically about the way that you do stuff. I will be respected, I will be thought of, I will be considered, and it will happen before a fight, and it will happen before the fallout, and it will happen without me telling you exactly what you probably should have done. You will do it on your own, because I am no longer going to soft parent a grown man into basic human decency. I'm not going to do it anymore. I have too much self-respect. You will grow with me, and you will take the time to think about me, what I'm doing, my processes, or I'm just not going to spend my time with you. The end. No ifs, ands, or buts. These are the rules. This is what I expect. These are my expectations. Meet them or don't. If you meet them, I would love to stay in your life because I love you. And if you don't meet them, I will not be in your life because after everything I've gone through with this book, with my life, with who I am as a person, I know that I have somehow, oddly enough, turned into a role model. And that means I will not be a hypocrite. Nothing is more valuable to me than my value system. Nothing is more valuable to me than my integrity. Not even my love for him, or my love for our relationship, or his amazing puppy. I love them both very, 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 very much. But I have to be able to live with myself, first and foremost. So, Even though I love this man very, very much, and he has been indispensable in multiple one really big situation, especially with Key passing, and him being there with me for that, and being Nurse Michael through that whole process. That is a debt that I can't repay, and I'm very, very thankful for it. But that does not mean that I will stay in his debt forever, because I didn't ask for those things, didn't need them. He did them out of the goodness of his heart, which I think is wonderful. But I do not owe him or anyone else anything. And that, I think, comes from my own journey of doing the hard thing to have the self-respect. And I'm really glad that I put this book out, because I told him, I'll deal with being emotionally neglected. I'll deal with being unimportant. I'll deal with not mattering much. I'll deal with your lack of excitement, enthusiasm, your lack of care about me or what's going on in my life, or the things that matter the most to me. I can deal with all of that. I shouldn't, and I don't want to, but because I naturally do, because that's my damage from childhood, it's really not that big of a deal. It is. It hurts. But I'm built for that in a way that is really infuriating, because I don't want to be built for that. I want that to change. And handling it the way that I did this morning is how that changes. Because again, going back to these 5 C's of self-esteem, I said straight up, going straight to character, the character being the respect for rules, morality, and integrity. These are my rules. This is my morality and my integrity. And when I said in the book that I walk away from situations where I am getting or being treated less than I deserve, I meant it. I have many, many times over. And I walked away from our relationship, like dating, because of that. But apparently I didn't walk far enough. So I made that clear today and was like, I'm not going to be a hypocrite, because this is my value system. When it comes to self-esteem, this is the hard part. This is the really, really, really hard part. If you want self-esteem and you want self-worth, you are going to have to do hard things. Not just wait around and be a good person, whatever that is in your head. That's not going to give you any sense of self-esteem or self-worth. You're just going to sit around feeling more of the same, and you might feel okay for a while, and then something will come around and you'll feel like shit again, because you haven't done anything to prove your own competence, to prove your own character, to prove your own confidence or your connection or any kind of contribution. So if you want to know what to do for your self-esteem, there you have it. You can work on any of these 5 C's. You can work on your connection. You can work on making more friends. And they'll see you a certain way. And hopefully your friends see you in a positive light, and then you can see you in a positive light. That's a small way to help self-esteem. But for me, the fastest way through that is to find your hard. Choose your hard. Life is hard no matter what you're going to do. No matter what you go through, there's going to be some shit that comes your way that's going to suck. And you will have to deal with it. And if you are only doing what is easy for you, whatever has been easiest, when that hard stuff comes, it is not worth it, because you're like, it's supposed to be easy. So choose your hard. Choose something that you believe is worth pursuing, even if you were to fail. I mean, for a lot of young people, climate action comes to mind. Like, that's something that people can work toward, of being an activist in climate action, because no matter what, they'll at least have tried to make some difference, to make the world a little bit greener, a little bit longer. That's a hard thing. Writing a book is a hard thing. Starting a podcast is a hard thing. Getting a new job is a hard thing. Saying no to mistreatment in a relationship is a hard thing. Saying no to neglect in a relationship or abuse is a hard thing. But each of these things build your character. They build your confidence. And if you set out to do these hard things in a realm where you build your life and your money and things around it. It builds your competence as well. And when you have those, each one feeds into the next in a beautiful, beautiful way when you do a hard thing. So that's my advice. That's what I have to say on self-worth. It breaks down into the 5 C's. You can work on any one of those 5 C's at any point in time, but my suggestion is find something that you believe in, that's hard, that you know is going to be hard, and pursue it doggedly. Pursue it completely and utterly with a passion. And when it gets hard, cry, take a break, sit down, do what you need to do, but keep at it. Just don't quit. Whatever you do, just don't give up, and you will develop some self-esteem, some self-worth, and self-respect. If you've made it this far in the podcast, thank you very, very much for listening. I really appreciate it. If you liked this episode, leave a review. Thank you very much for spending your time with me. I hope that you have a fantastic week. And remember, stay curious. And especially if you want self-worth, stay uncomfortable.